thank you for joining me today. My name is Jenny. I'm the owner and founder of Sipping Streams Tea Company, an 11-time international award-winning certified tea specialist. And today I am featuring our Phoenix Oolong. Our Phoenix Oolong is one of my favorite teas. It actually reminds me of my childhood because of the way that it tastes. Now, many of you might not have ever had lotus seed soup before, but lotus seeds are from the gigantic lotus flower, and then there's little large seeds that kind of look like nuts in them. And growing up, I drank this soup, this vegetable soup broth with lotus seeds in them that were dried and kind of tasted a little nutty, a little earthy, and kind of green and vegetal. So today I want to share with you our Phoenix Oolong, which is an amazing oolong that is from the Phoenix Mountain. Now, the main oolong producing regions in China are the Phoenix Mountain, the Wuyi Mountain, Fujian, and Anxi, and there's also oolongs that are grown in Taiwan too. And in Taiwan, they are famous for their oolong teas. But in China, the tea where it is the region where the tea is grown really changes the flavor drastically, not just the processing. So today I've weighed out on my gram scale 2.5 grams of the Phoenix Oolong. As you can see, they are very, very large, fluffy tea leaves. And you can see here they're very long and stringy, and they look kind of black, but they're actually kind of a greenish color once they infuse. So the Phoenix Oolong is about, to do it just the traditional way of how you would professionally evaluate it in a cupping set, you would use about 195 degrees water, so just right before boiling in 2 to 3 minutes, and you fill it with your hot water, and you put those tea leaves, those lots of fluffy tea leaves. So this is almost about 2 tablespoons once you've weighed it out of the tea leaves itself. Remember, the best way to experience the tea is to actually make it properly with the correct amount of weight and the right amount of tea leaves in it. For those of you in the subscription box, definitely let me know any questions that you have in our group. I would love to answer your questions and show you more about the teas. Now, the Phoenix Oolong is very much unusual because it's so long, like individual tea leaf pieces. It's not a traditional tea kuan yin kind of crinkled nuggets. Its rolling process is more twisted and wiry. And some say this is the way that oolongs were traditionally made because this is how they were discovered. It was a tea that was in between, it's a tea that's in between a green and a black tea. And so semi-oxidized, it's not fully oxidized into a black tea, and somewhere in between. So sometimes it has a full body, like a black tea, but tastes more green and vegetal. And someone thinks that the tea leaves got left out too long past green tea, and they're like, oh, ooh, it's kind of like dark, kind of dirty looking. It's like, that's why it's called oolong, like ooh. And that's more of like a Chinese thing that we talk about when I was a kid. It's like, oh, it's kind of dirty looking, kind of dark looking. So it's kind of like a dark tea leaf that was like green and got left out a little too long. So some people think that's how oolongs were created, because they're kind of like this tea leaf that was kind of messed up, but tastes pretty good at the same time. So this oolong tea is from the Phoenix Mountains, and that's why it's called Phoenix Oolong. And the Chinese like to name their teas after appearance or location. At any time, if you have any questions at all, definitely write them down in the comments, and I'd love to answer them. So you want to use 2.5 grams, about 6 to 8 ounces of water. If you use a professional cupping set, you're going to pour your tea into here, and there's little teeth in here that strain out your tea leaves. Now this tea, it has very, very long leaves, so if you don't drink it with a strainer of some sort, if you don't use an infuser or a disposable tea bag or a cotton one, it is okay. Alexa, stop. Because you will be able to drink it without getting little tiny bits, because they're relatively long leaves. So I'm going to decant it now. And that means, decanting just means straining it out. And there's this kind of this amberish, Alexa, stop. There's gonna be kind of a pinkish hue, and I don't think you can see it. I might accidentally pour it out, so I'm going to put it in this glass jar for you to see this kind of amber pinkish hue to it. It's very interesting. And if you have a very tall cup, it's a great way to experience the fragrance and the aroma of the oolong. In fact, for the traditional Chinese tea ceremony that's used in Taiwan to evaluate oolong teas, they use these very tall tea ceremony cups like that. And they'll be skinny and tall, so you can smell it at the same time that you're drinking it. I'll have this kind of sweet, kind of nutty flavor. It should get stronger the second or third time, especially if you're making your tea properly. And when I'm sucking in and slurping my tea, I'm cooling it down, I'm spraying it all over my palate, and I'm smelling it at the same time. So when you try to experience this tea fully for all its different rich characteristics, and I'm starting to get the tingle on my tongue. So for me personally, I don't know why my body does this, but if it's a really good tea, I kind of get this slight tingling on the side and the back of my tongue for some reason. It doesn't matter if it's a green tea, an oolong tea, or a black tea, but for some reason, those teas of ours that we've entered into competition where I feel that tingly sensation afterwards are our award-winning teas. So I'm not sure what that means exactly, but for some reason I get this tingly sensation that makes it a note of, oh, this is a really good, amazing tea. And then you'll kind of taste this slight undertones of vegetalness to it. It kind of tastes dark and might kind of remind people of a black tea just because of its appearance mostly, but also it is an older growth tea. That means there's different types of tea bushes you can harvest off of. You can harvest off of a younger tea bush or plant section, or you can use older growth. And the older growth will have a lot more complex notes to it. Those are usually the higher end teas because they're more mature. Just imagine like an aged violin. And over the years of being used and changing its environment and settling itself into all this richness and culture that it's lived through, it's the same way with the tea plant. So the older the tea plant is, it has a lot more life experience, a lot more character to it too. So this tea, this oolong, Phoenix oolong, will have more of the notes of kind of rich darkness to it, and then lower notes of vegetalness with slight sweetness to it, very smooth. And if you're making it right, it should taste better the second or third time. When you see the tea leaves, they might be kind of long and stringy, and you might think, oh, they won't reinfuse that much because they're not tightly rolled, but they actually are tightly rolled the other way. So if you see here in my cupping set, you'll see that they're starting to open up more, but are pretty bright and springy. They haven't actually opened up all the way, and you'll see they're more of a greenish vegetal color. But for example, this one, that one's wiry and rolled, it is not opened up all the way. It still looks like a twisted tube, and if you try to force it open, it has some pretty good springiness to it, so it has quite a bit left of its infusions, but I'm forcing it open and unrolling this tea leaf, and you'll start to see the cut of the tea leaf and how this is actually only part of a tea leaf. It's not even the whole leaf itself. So you'll see the edges of the tea leaf here. This is the middle part of it. It's missing its second half of the tea leaf. So these are very, very large tea leaves here. And when it opens up all the way, it probably has no more flavor because the all the surface area of the tea leaf has already been touched. So what that means is it will release all of its flavor into the cup eventually after 4 steepings. So I hope this was very interesting for you. Definitely follow the instructions about right before boiling, 195 degrees water, steep it 2 to 3 minutes. Definitely make sure you're using the right amount of tea leaves. So if you don't have a gram scale, I would say it'd be about like 2 tablespoons. And it's really fluffy, so you have to use more tea because it's not, it's so fluffy, it takes up more volume. Where really densely, tightly rolled teas like our ginseng oolong, just a very few pellets, but it's still the same amount of tea. It's the same amount of weight. And in the end, you need to have the right amount of weight of the ingredients to make the proper cup of tea. So most of the time at the grocery store, you're not going to see teas that are labeled re-steep up to 4 times, because those teas usually cannot be re-steeped up to 4 times. In fact, a lot of those tea bags in the grocery aisle, if you rip them open and weigh them, they will be less than a serving. They will be half a serving of tea leaf. So they'll have a very fast extraction rate. You can dunk, like a Lipton tea bag for 30 seconds and it will be very strong because it's so small versus these very full leaf oolong teas that we have here. So it would take a little bit more time to force open and to have the flavor come out of the tea leaves. So thank you so much for joining me. If you want to get access for more of this tea, definitely go to our website, sippingstreams.com, and you can order more on there. There's a huge selection of oolongs. In fact, most of our awards are in the oolong category. And if you're interested in sharing out more tea, let people know about our subscription box, which is also on our homepage at sippingstreams.com. If you want to learn more about tea and a lot more videos, definitely go to our Sipping Streams YouTube channel and you can learn more about tea there. Thank you so much everyone for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon.